Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mangs, and today I bring you guys a fan-submitted game. I finally opened up a way for you guys to submit games directly to me. This alternate Gmail account right here, mangsawbwreplays@gmail.com, is the place to send your replays. Please don't send the replay files, just upload the replay yourself to the site and send me the link, much better. And when you submit a replay, make sure that you include in the title the CO matchup, the MMR, how many days the matchup is, and how long it is. And then in the mail itself, just tell me a little bit about the game. Why should I cast it? What's fun about it? So this one kind of caught my eye because it has such a wacky CO matchup. I don't think I've ever casted a game where it's Sonja versus Grit. This is highly unusual. I think it's the first time I ever see this matchup. So it just caught my eye. Sonja and Grit, these are both incredibly misunderstood COs in competitive Advanced Wars. I think a lot of people who have just played the cartridge casually against their little brother think that both Sonja and Grit are OP as hell. I know I used to think they were broken. Sonja, of course, she seems so good to newer players because it's, wow, the extra vision and the increased counterattack, and she pumps her power and she gets first strike on all her units. So broken! And then, of course, you have Grit. We've all played against a Grit player on the cartridge. You know, Span Island Grit, he just builds artillery, and there's nothing you can do. Very frustrating. But the sad reality is, when you play these two in competitive Advanced Wars, you realize that both of them are very bad. Sonja is just unable to break through walls with her low luck. And her powers, while they are good from a utility standpoint, they don't allow her to actually wipe her enemies off the map, which is incredibly important to do in competitive Advanced Wars. Meanwhile, Grit is certainly good in some standard maps. On smaller maps, he's usually banned, but in Fog, he's actually very bad. He can go as, like, high or low, depending on how you see it, as tier 3 in Fog, because it's just, he needs vision to shoot with his artillery, and artillery are very easily picked off. It's very hard to see where your opponent is coming from in the fog, and the presence of air units means that Grit also has to defend against battlecopters. And I know some of you may think, oh, couldn't you just build missiles? No, he cannot. No, you don't want to build missiles as Grit. You definitely don't want to do that. However, when I look at this matchup, I can't help but think that I actually don't know what to think. This is a really weird matchup. I don't know who has the edge here because, of course, Grit is very bad in Fog. But he's up against Sonja? I mean, she can see his hidden artillery in the woods with her powers, which I guess is a cool interaction. Sonja's extra counterattack damage won't play that big of a role against Grit, because he usually fires with indirects. Although I will say, Grit's melee units are so bad, he probably doesn't even want to take engagements against Sonja, because she'll fire back and probably do more damage than Grit does to her. So again, I really don't know who has the edge in this particular matchup. I guess we have to take a look at the map itself. So the map that they're playing on is called Boomerang Steppe. This is a pretty cool fog map. It reminds me a lot of Stalingrad. You got very exposed HQs in the middle here. But you also have like this middle lab surrounded by shoals, which is a very good place to put a Neotank or some other strong high-tech units. Airports are far in the back, so it takes a little while for battlecopters to arrive on the scene. You got a pipe seam, which you can blast open if you wish to reinforce your weak side. So you can see this map has a strong side, weak side component, where you have two bases here for the top right player, and you got two bases here for the top bottom left player. So this is the strong side for orange. This is the strong side for purple. So usually you got to be a little bit careful of that. But of course, you can swap your army around. It's not particularly hard. So attacks can really come from anywhere, and in my experience, the battle tends to be here around the com tower and here around this com tower. It's a cool map though, I really like it, and the players are not highly rated. We got Axadro here, who is 864, and we got Maldoce Gusto, who is 756. So not super skilled players by any means, but I think it's important sometimes to cast lower level games. I don't think that's a problem at all. I think we can't just watch RIP in the championship. Sometimes it's nice to just cast some games from more ordinary people, if you will. And I'll try to point out mistakes and give some feedback on what they could be doing better, which is, of course, an interesting thing about casting new replays. You can give a little bit of advice, you know? Although, I don't feel as qualified to give like high-level advice because, again, just this is a very complicated game, and I'm not that good despite casting the game. And there are plenty of people who are way better than me. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I say we get started. Let's jump into this match and see how it goes. I really have no idea what to even think about this one. So let's get started. So we got Madolch, Gusto. I'm just gonna call him Gusto. Gusto and Oxadro. Yeah, Gusto in the yellow trunks up here. Oxadro in the blue trunks down here. Sonja versus Grid. Man, so already we have a big mistake right here going for the city instead of the base. You really don't want to do this. Always go for the neutral base first. There's not even a good capture chain here. So we can already say, big mistake being done here. It looks like Gusto knows this better than his opponent. Because, like, if you really think about it, what do you really gain? 1k income? Like, you'd rather have an extra unit. Because that extra unit can be an infantry that captures more properties. So it's gonna result in more income later on anyway. But Oxadro is not capturing his base. The first time I played on this map, I actually didn't see the shoal tile right here. I thought this was an island. So I actually didn't capture this this island for the longest time because I thought I needed like a... Well, actually that doesn't make any sense because there's no harbors on this map. Yeah, I guess I must have just been stupid. But I didn't see the shoal, so I was like, how am I supposed to get this airport? I guess I must build like a lander or something. But there's no harbors. And then I was like, oh, you can literally just hit an infantry over here. So always pay attention to this when you play Advanced Wars. May not be as apparent as at first glance. Anyway, Oxadro opens up APC here, which is a bit of a questionable choice as Grit. I'm not saying that it's like necessarily bad to open up transports as Grit. Mech. Yeah, oh my god, so much to talk about here. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily to go transports as Grit. It's not like he has worse transports or infantry. But generally speaking, I find that it's probably better to not do it. Because with Grit, you really need as many artillery and recons out in the early game as you can. And building an APC just makes this a little bit harder to do. But we'll see if you can make something happen here. Also, like a mech on its own is a terrible opener. You really don't want to be building a mech without an APC to boost it. It might be that Gusto is intending to build an APC, but then why not build the APC first, you know? Like, if you look at his income right here, he has 7k, which is actually the perfect amount. If he wants to open up APC, infantry, mech. Or sorry, infantry, APC, and then you build the mech next turn, and then you boost the APC, or you boost the mech with the APC down here. But why would you even want to build mechs against Grit? I mean, it's not like the guy builds a lot of tanks. Mechs are awful against artillery, so this is just a bad opener from both players. I mean, I'd say Gusto is definitely the worst of the two in terms of openers here, but let's just see what happens here. So, Oxadro correctly opens recon. This is important to do as Grit. I don't necessarily think you need the recon first. You can probably afford to go artillery then recon, but as a Grit player, you need your recons. You need a lot of recons, actually. Because, again, without vision, you can't do anything. So Grit needs at least 2 or 3 recons on the map at all times. This is actually very important. So here, Gusto opens up APC on the other side of his mech. So already, this APC, which could have been used to get this mech to the front lines, is not really in range of the mech. I think, I may hazard a guess, I think he might be going for the pipe seam with the mech. But the mech deals like 15 or 14% damage to the pipe seam, so this is going to take a lot of turns. So we'll see what he does now. So Oxadro here, he's going to be moving out with his APC. And the recon moves out as well. Second recon, so I'm not saying it's bad to go many recons as Grit. But I think it's probably better to get the artillery out first, because the artillery takes a while to get into position, whereas the recons does not. So you can probably open up artillery first and then go recons. Of course, it might be that he just wants to see where the units are. Nice boosting by the APC here, we love to see it. And yeah, so it looks like Gusto is... I don't know if he plans to keep the mech here. By the way, there's a little bug with Advanced Wars by Web, and it's still active. Whenever a unit shoots on a pipe seam, it doesn't lose ammo. Or it has a chance not to lose ammo. They really need to fix this. It's not a big deal since it's a city here that resupplies the mech, but it is a little bit annoying. I noticed this in one of my other games, that units that shoot on pipe seams don't seem to lose ammo. Double recon from Gusto. So against Grit, you want recons. You want a lot of recons. We also want tanks. Recons are nice for scouting out where Grit's artillery are, but they're not amazing as Sonja, because you need to deal damage to him, and Recons deal decently with artillery, but as Sonja, that reduced luck means that they hit a lot less hard than they should. So I wouldn't spam too many Recons against Grit and Fog. I would probably focus, I would go 1 Recon, and then the rest tanks probably. But a big mistake from Gusto right here is leaving this airport. This airport is, after this base, is priority number 1. And the reason why it is so important to get the airport against Grit is you want to build battlecopters every single turn. Because Grit doesn't want to build anti-air, or he hates building anti-air because that's 1 less artillery that he doesn't have. And if you can spam out the battlecopters, you're forcing Grit to build a lot of weak anti-air. Again, don't build missiles. Missiles are awful. But just something to keep in mind. Against Grit, you want your air count to be as high as possible. And Sonja's battlecopters and bombers are actually pretty good, because when she pops her counter break, which gives all of her units first strike, enemy anti-air can no longer target her bombers. The bombers will actually destroy the anti-air. And battlecopters attacked by enemy battlecopters will actually be shot down. So Sonja's air game is actually pretty strong. So, yeah, again, I did this too when I played this map. I didn't think I could capture the airport. But you want to make sure you get it as soon as possible. So, Axandro is moving out. He's going for the com tower first, which, again, there's really no point to do this. I think he is intending to try and grab both com towers. I find that it's great. You don't really need com towers. They're nice, don't get me wrong, but your artillery are usually strong enough to shoot away most vehicles. It's better to go for the economic opener. But I don't necessarily hate this, but we're on day 7 and Grit has not deployed a single artillery. I expect to see some artillery right now. Good. As Grit, artillery is going to be like half your army. Artillery are your bread and butter. Avoid the temptation to build rockets. Build artillery. Gusto is finally going for the airport right now, which is good, moving out with tanks as well. And he continues to fire on this pipe seams. He's just going to keep his mech here. I'm not a huge fan of this. I think just building an artillery, placing the artillery here, and just spending 2 turns to shoot it, maybe plus a mech, would have been a better way to break the pipe seam. So Gusto moving out right here. Again, we're still in the early capture phases of the game. Both players are doing an alright job capturing properties. And again, I'm thinking Axador probably should take a turn to blast away this pipe seam. He doesn't have to, but it can be nice to have it open just in case. Day 9 rolls in. Gusto is scouting, seeing what he can see. Sonja recons are incredibly valuable. Look at the vision on these things. Once you pop your power, they'll see you literally like all the way down here. It's crazy. This map doesn't have a lot of mountains on it, which I think might favor Sonja, because it means that Grit has to rely on recons to scout out Sonja's forces, where Sonja can just, you know, use her insane recons to see what Grit is doing. So I'd say this is probably a decent map for her. Day 9 rolls in. Both players are equal on the capture values and on unit count. Making some basic mistakes in the early goings of the game, but it's honestly fine. Yeah, so we will not see the damage, by the way, that Grit does to Sonja on his turn. We'll have to wait until the next turn, because that's just how Advanced Force by Web works. On his turn, we see it from his perspective, so we don't see her unit value, because it's hidden, and we also don't see the damage. But I'm assuming this probably dealt like 3 or 4 HP damage. This is a very reckless move, because you can pretty much expect there to be a tank in this area. It's not worth it to lose a recon to interrupt a single capture in this game. Your recons are, especially for Grit, these recons need to be kept alive. They have 20% less firepower. You don't really want to use them to fight. Just keep them in the back. You need to keep your recons alive. If you don't have vision, you don't have anything as Grit. So normally, for most COs, I'd say use your recons to interrupt, but for Grit, don't do it. You're not going to win due to an economic advantage as Grit. You're going to win due to killing your opponent as Grit. And look at this. Yeah, look at that. Recon goes down, so now he only has vision here. And the pipe seam is going to take 2 more turns to be broken down. 3 recons? I don't hate this. Again, I think that Sonja should probably focus a little bit more on tanks. But recons are nice against Grit, don't get me wrong. And now, Grit really needs to get some recons out. T-Copter on day 9, I'm not a big fan of this move. You already opened an APC, there's no need. You don't really need to build Battlecopters either, honestly. They're decent scouts, but Grit Battlecopters are kind of weak. I would probably just focus on... Honestly, at this point, day 10, you just build 3 artillery and occasionally anti-air. I think that's literally got to be your unit composition right now. So I think because Axadro here has been so slow to open up artillery, we're in day 10 and he barely has artillery on the map because he opened recon instead of artillery. And he's building too many transports, I think, is great. I like the anti-air on day 10. It's a good day to build it on a map like this, and you need to have it. Second anti-air, sure. If Sonja spams a lot of Battlecopters, it's better to be safe than sorry. Second Battlecopter, dude, you need artillery. You need artillery is great. 50% of your army should be artillery is great. You need to have twice as many artillery, and you need to have them all in the same area. You can't spread them out like this, because they're going to get picked off. You need to... I think as a Grit player, I would probably consolidate in the center here. I would bring artillery together, make a death ball, and then just inch that death ball slowly forward. I think that's how you have to play this map as Grit. Whereas the bigger the map is for Grit, the worse it is for him. And here you can see just one of the reasons why Sonja is so difficult. This, as most other COs, would have been a kill. But as Sonja, because of her bad luck, it's not a kill. Just very tough for her. See, once again, this probably would have been a kill for any other CO. But for Sonja, not so. So both these units are still alive, which will grant Grit crucial vision. Once again, oh my goodness. You see what I'm talking about here? Any other CO, these would have been 3 killed units. But for Sonja, they're left alive, which allows Grit to use them as blockers, vision scouters. It's awful. Absolutely awful. I think you need to chill with the recons, my man. Gusto, how many recons are that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 recons? Bruh, I like the Battlecopters. Battlecopters are good, but you need more tanks, in my honest opinion. And also, no anti-air. I mean, Grit Battlecopters are not the scariest things in the world, but you should still have one anti-air out just to deal with them, you know? So here, Axadro is moving out. So again, he gets to use these units as blockers now, which is huge for him. But he's making some rather reckless moves here. And this 1 artillery is not going to do jack. I mean, yeah, it's like all... It covers the city, which is nice, but it's also all on its own. The APC can be used as a blocker, which I don't hate. But at this point during the game, Grit needs to ball up. He needs to put his units together in a death ball. Because, yeah, this is the problem right here. Trap that newer players very often do is they build the Grit rocket. Look, we all know that the Grit rocket is pretty cool. You know, it has insane range. But it's a bad investment. It doesn't do that much more damage than the artillery. Its damage is very comparable to the artillery. And it costs almost 3 times as much as the artillery. It's so much better to have 2.5 artillery per rocket. The rocket is something that you can start investing into the super late game. Once the game goes into day 25 and you have a huge wall, that's when you can start adding on rockets to your formation. But in the early game, man, you just go Arty, anti-air, Arty, anti-air, and occasional recon as Grit. So now, Axadro gets 2 of his units picked up. Yeah, Battlecopters every turn. Dude, chill with the recons already! My man! You have so many recons! Oh, D just would cry tears of joy. My man, more tanks. You don't need... Okay, I know recons are good against Grit, but you don't need this many. That being said, if you look at Gusto's position right now, look at the map control that he has over Grit. Yeah, Axadro is in a rough spot right here. He's probably going to lose this comm tower. Gusto is moving most of his forces into an area where he only has a single artillery. So that's going to be rough. I mean, this is nice though, Grit. Just one-shots the recon straight up. 20% extra firepower in artillery is very strong. But there's no way this wall's going to hold if Gusto goes in for this. Look at the skeleton crew right here. This artillery is wide open. There, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This, because of the forest, the tank is not quite in range. But you can see how deadly our great artillery are. They're actually terrifying. I think you really need to put a unit here and a unit here. You don't want your artillery to be exposed. I know this artillery is in a forest, but one tank in here and they're both dead. So day 13 rolls in. They're equal on income and unit count. So it's still a pretty even game, but I am scared of Exadro. Like, I am scared for Exadro. It's hard to play Grid and Fog, man. It is really, really hard to play Grid and Fog. So Gusto is moving forward here. He's got a lot of tanks lined up. Oh, this position right here is so exposed. It is so exposed. Exadro... My man, stop building the recons, please. Enough! Enough! You don't need this many recons! Oh my goodness. Day 13. I mean, look at this range. I can see why players are enticed by this. I get it. You put it here, you defend. But man, that rocket is such a... Oh, no, 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 don't move forward! Don't move forward, you have no vision! Look at all the units, you are basically surrounded. Look, you remember how he lost this one recon here? If he had kept that recon alive, kept it here, he could have seen this entire... Like, he is surrounded and he doesn't even know it. Look how blind he is. He doesn't see anything. He's completely blind. So here he's doing a decent job warding away these units. He's making a good wall here, but he has one artillery. Okay, I want to see, buddy, I want to see 3 arty coming out from you right now. Look, you gotta occasionally build a tank as grit. I get it. And I'm not saying even a Neo tank is a bad move as a grit, but buddy, you need more artillery. You have 3 artillery! Artillery is the reason why Grit is so good. It's the backbone of his army. You have 3 of them. I don't mean to yell. I know these are noobs, but you know, I want to hammer the point home. As Grit, it's the arty spam. Every single turn. Arty, 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 arty. You gotta have an arty party. APC on day 14? Okay. Alright, I guess he wanted a second APC. Yeah, pro tip guys, transports are good in the early game. You don't really want to be building transports in the late game unless it's for a very specific purpose. Oh my god, this guy, oh, he's gonna, oh, look how blind he is. He sees nothing. Oh, he's gonna get shellacked. Oh boy, this is gonna be so ugly. And Sonja's power is closing in too. We might actually, like, if Sonja pops on Han's vision now, she can see everything, and she can just go ham. Oh boy. Oh, this is gonna be ugly. Bruh. Recons. 3 recons. Just build artillery. He's a Grit player and he has 3 artillery on a rocket by day 15. This makes me very, very sad. Alright, well, guys. I think we're gonna see us. Yeah, look at that. We're gonna see a complete slaughter right here. And in comes the recon. Recon. And you can see how quickly Grit starts to crumble. Once his wall starts to fail, there is nothing that can really stop Grit from just getting swept off the map. And are we gonna see a counter break right here? So counter break, I mean, it's not great against the Grit, honestly. Against the Grit, I'd probably just pop normal power just to get vision. It's not like Grit's really gonna attack you in melee anyway, so But I mean, why not? So I'm pretty sure that's just GG. If I was Grit, I'd probably just resign. He does pop his power, and good on him for popping Snipe Attack and not Super Snipe. I think he had Superpower available, right? Yeah, he did. So again, another Grit lesson: you always pop the normal power. The Superpower is reserved for very specific cases where you need that extra range to get a very valuable kill. They have the same firepower boosts, so normal power is always more valuable. You want to save that power charge, but it doesn't really matter when you don't have. Yeah, don't attack. What? What the? What? Does this tank have like 1 HP? I think this tank must have 1 HP, right? Because there's no way it's dealing 2. Okay. It's so weird to not be able to see. He got trapped. That's funny. It's so weird to not be able to see the damage values. And then he resigns. Yeah, that was pretty unavoidable. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this matchup, it was played on a higher level. I think it might be a bit more even. I do think Sonja probably has the edge against Grit on a fog map like this, just because she can see his artillery positionings. Again, I wouldn't even pop counter break against Grit. I would just pop enhanced mission and just like go for it. So, but I mean, it's a noob match, and obviously mistakes are going to be made. Hopefully, I gave some feedback to both of your playstyles. For the Sonja player, more tanks capture the airport earlier. Tanks battlecopters are pretty much what you want. And for the Grit player, more artillery, man. You should have had like 30 or maybe not 30 artillery. You should have had like 15 artillery at this point. And you should have boxed them around your HQ. The rocket could be a nice add-on. Could be a nice add-on in the late game. But I don't want to see a rocket until day 20. So, but thank you for submitting the match, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, mangsawbwreplays@gmail.com if you'd like to submit your games. I got a lot of submissions though, so I may not have time to go through them all, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Hope you guys enjoy this noob game. I will see you guys next time. Like, comment, and subscribe!